This is Mrs. Walker. She's the mayor here in Colvert, and lately her job has been getting more challenging. One day she decided it was time for a change, to get to the bottom of things, to find long-term solutions. But where should she start? She first needed to know if the population shared her point of view. Well, I didn't go, but my mother was there. So many people showed up. Apparently, Mrs. Walker had hit a nerve. The issues brought up by the citizens were the same ones that were bothering the mayor. And that's when the mayor realized that our city's problems were much more serious than she'd previously thought. She quickly saw that Colvert was far from being exemplary, that the citizens didn't have the quality of life they were seeking. To sum it up, she had a lot of work to do, and she needed help. Business people, architects, urban planners, many specialists were called upon to find solutions. And as if we didn't have enough things to do, Colvert had just received its greenhouse gases emission report. A very bad report, to say the least. We obviously had to solve that problem as well. We were starting to have a lot to do at the same time. The mayor and her collaborators got to work, and after brainstorming, they understood that by dealing with the greenhouse gases, Colvert would also be taking care of its other problems. That's just what they did, and that's the story I'm going to tell you now. It all started in the 1950s. Up until then, Colvert was a close-knit community. Then, after a few years, almost everyone could afford a car. Since it became easier to move around quickly, people left the older neighborhoods to settle in the country. One street after the other, one house after the next, the city started spreading. Today, almost everyone has their own house. We do. That's me, Nancy and our kids, Nathan and Megan. Our neighborhood is calm, clean, and safe, and most importantly, close to nature. Well, that's how it was at first. We were proud of our newfound quality of life, forgetting that we were building a city dependent on cars and oil. Cars encourage urban sprawl, making it necessary to buy a car. And the farther you live, the more you need a car. I need one a little more than most. Plus, thinking it was making the city cleaner and more efficient, we separated the activities. We used the zoning to help avoid industries polluting houses. Nice thought. But by pushing our logic to the extreme, we made it so that nowadays our houses, jobs, activities, public services, and businesses are so far from one another that we can't do anything by foot anymore. Having a car has become a must. We use it to do everything. Since we own a car, we figured that we might as well use it to drive Megan to school, which really isn't that far. Then we drop Nancy off at work, and then it's my turn. Each night we do the same thing in reverse, and we even take Nathan to the sports center. Well, he has to be a little active, doesn't he? And I'm not the only one to live like that. Many families even have 2 or 3 cars, and boy, do we cover a lot of kilometers in one day. With so many cars, there's obviously traffic. Tell me about it. We tried to solve the problem by creating a large boulevard that went around the city center, but in the end, it made things worse. New residential neighborhoods were created on each end, and with each new development, businesses started popping up, which attracted even more cars. In a few years, this meant that the bypass road also became very congested. And since we're not quick learners, we thought it would be best to build a highway. We didn't quite understand that building a faster road would make people want to drive even more and create even more traffic. So in the end, it's just a vicious cycle. For those that don't have a car, things aren't any easier. That's my mother. Because of her age, she can't drive anymore. There are many people like her that don't have a car. They're either too old, too young, too poor, or they just don't want one. Modern cities are often hostile to these car-less people. My mother has a great deal of trouble coming to see us, and more often than not, to make it easier on her, I pick her up by car. Same thing when she needs to go anywhere else, like the hardware store. Today, when we need to buy something, it's always a bit further away, and we almost always take the car to get there. So, all in all, the car is ever more present. Roads, bridges, interchanges, viaducts, and parking lots are all infrastructures that we must build and maintain. and it's costly for everyone. It's become an asphalt jungle, and it gets really, really hot here sometimes. Well, we really made it happen. We paved huge surfaces to create parking lots. That created heat islands, which increases the smog risk that can seriously affect our health. My son could tell you about that. But instead of solving the problem at the source, we'd rather rely on technology to save us, even if that often contributes to increasing our greenhouse gas emissions. Truthfully, we're all just trying to improve our lives. For some, it means a bigger TV, a bigger house, a bigger yard, a pool, a spa. We bought all of those things thinking it was the best of worlds. Well, why not? We had the room and enough resources. But now we can finally see that there's a downside to having all those things. We'd like to minimize our impact, but we find that doing small things, everyone by himself, is not enough. And voila, we have an ordinary city with all sorts of problems that were directly contributing to the climate change. In Colvert, we decided to change things. I say we because the mayor wanted everyone to participate. We agreed on a long-term vision. Together, we would decrease our greenhouse gas emissions and transform Colvert into a cleaner, greener, and more prosperous city. To do so, the first thing the mayor's team did was to reduce the urban boundary. There would be no construction beyond a certain limit. If less land is available, developers will hurry and snatch up the remaining parcels. With less and less available land, they'll build more compact buildings to house more people and make more money. However, sacrificing my family's well-being to go live in a chicken coop is completely out of the question. But that's not what we did. By talking together, we understood that we could rebuild the city on itself, reorganize it, and create more compact neighborhoods without stepping on each other's toes. It's pretty simple. Here's how we did it. First, to have an animated and strong downtown, we asked 2 big employers to move there. Apparently, it's good for real estate and businesses. One thing's for sure, big changes started to happen. More people were around, more businesses and more services too. Main Street came back to life, and now it's a pleasurable place to live, work, or walk around and meet people. Well, at least my mother can't stop talking about it. We have to admit that the city made a huge effort to make the streets, public squares, and parks more enjoyable. We even built new ones. But wait, that's not all. On the other side of the river, there were old abandoned industrial buildings. With the city's help, the owners renovated them to house stores, businesses, and even housing, all in one spot. I never thought it would work, but there's definitely a lot more life in the neighborhood now. And it's a lot greener, too. South of the city, we transformed the train station into a bus terminal and also added exciting new uses. But we didn't stop there. We created a neighborhood which was friendlier to pedestrians and cyclists. We didn't hold back, and it works. Nancy and I, we love to relax on the new pedestrian street. It's lively, and there are all sorts of people there, too. Meanwhile, Megan plays with her friends on a shared street where cars aren't banned, but where they don't have sole priority. All in all, the street has become accessible again, and it's also become safer and fun for everyone. It's no longer just a transit road for cars, even if Megan still finds ways to scare us. On the other side of town, we gave the shopping center a new life by making it the heart of a new neighborhood. There was a lot of space around the buildings, so we decided to use it better. We built a multi-level parking lot in which there are more spots in less space. That's how we took back the surface parking lots to build new buildings. And in no time, that neighborhood became almost as lively as downtown. The remaining parking lots were resurfaced. Instead of being directed into the river by the sewers, the rainwater infiltrates the soil or is drained towards a pond. Specialists call it a landscaped retention pond. With the trees we added, the heat islands almost disappeared. Everyone enjoys it much more. Well, Megan does anyway. Here's the neighborhood where Nathan's best friend lives. We like to call it Tangletown. It's the kind of suburb where there are bungalows, no services, and where the twists and turns make the way 3 times longer than the direct route. The city wanted to make it into a more complete area, so it built a community center in the heart of the neighborhood. Then, it changed its rules and suggested measures to increase the area's density and make it possible for stores and businesses to settle. Activity attracts more people, and more people attract more activity. A few pedestrian shortcuts between the badly connected streets and a new bike path make it possible for the children to avoid detours. Well, adults too, for that matter. With more people living in the neighborhood, the city was able to offer a good bus service on a reserved lane. Today, things are good in Tangletown. Upstream, the city built a new neighborhood near the old mill. I moved there with my family. From there, it's easy to enjoy nature and not impact it too much. That was the goal when we decided to build an eco-friendly neighborhood. Colvert imposed stringent construction rules. The neighborhood is more compact and the housing is better planned. For example, buildings are not exposed to the elements and they therefore use less energy and produce less greenhouse gas. The density of the neighborhood makes the infrastructures more efficient. The more people served per kilometer, the more bang for our buck. People, a bustling city, a reliable bus service? I get it now. Speaking of buses, while we were creating neighborhood centers, we had to think about linking them with a good collective transportation system. The old mill links to Tangletown, the train station to the shopping center, and they all connect through downtown. What's good about those transit lines is that they're reliable. The bus shelters are comfortable, and there are benches and timetables indicating when the next bus will come. And since it's efficient, more people want to use it and move closer by. It's so popular that the city is thinking about increasing the service. Our daily trips are a lot less stressful now. Nancy works in the neighborhood, and I work on the newspaper's presses downtown. I even take the bus to get there. At the same time, the city has decreased the number of parking spots downtown and allocated a few to car-sharing services. Apparently, one shared car can replace 8 individual cars. And there's also the self-serve bike service. I haven't tried it yet, but I hear it's really useful because there are stations everywhere. Now, we can travel around the city without using our car. Thanks to all that, Colvert is starting to feel a lot better. But we're far from being done. We have many other projects to tackle. First of all, we need to make the bypass road friendlier for all. Then we will replace the most popular bus lines with a light rail system. Finally, as an alternative to the highway, we'll connect Colvert to neighboring cities by putting the train back on track. That's how, with smaller and more important decisions, Colvert got the best greenhouse gas emissions grade in the country and contributed in its fight against climate change. We used this challenge to completely review the way we developed and organized our city. Today, we're happy to say that we live in Colvert. It's not only a nice, clean, and prosperous city, but it's a model city as well. For the mayor, things are better than ever. She exceeded the population's expectations, and I think she'll be in office for a while. You may think this was just a fairy tale, where everything just magically happened, but that's not the case. We didn't all agree at first. We were afraid of making sacrifices by changing the way we lived, but the biggest step we had to take was changing our way of seeing things. In the end, we really lucked out. And me, a little more than most, and I'm really proud to say it.